No one can interrupt my groove today. Been watching race cars move away. I just don't think that I can lose, and I might just take a cruise and let the sunshine play. Something more, something new, something new.
Welcome back, everybody. Super excited for tonight's show. U.S. Open week, as always, joined by my good buddy Drew at Detroit Dave 7. How are you living this evening, Drew?
I'm doing well. Happy U.S. Open week to you, gentlemen. I'm fired up. I think Brookline's going to be sweet, and it's going to be a fun week. So I'm looking forward to it. Father's Day. Happy Father's Day. James, I don't know if you're a father, but I know that you are a soon-to-be father there, Rob. So happy Father's Day to the both of you this upcoming weekend.
Thank you. Yeah, and segue into a very excited guest. We were just talking before we clicked the live button that James, you've seen him on the leaderboard, the Degenerate 75. You've seen him, doing the Showdown Hoedown, just kind of killing it, helping people make money, and love what he has to say. So, James, thanks for joining us tonight.
Hey, man, I appreciate you having me on. This is definitely not my first time watching this show, but my first time being on here. I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, well, we're excited to have you. And so let's just dive in a little bit just about your own history as it relates to PGA DFS, how long you've been doing it, and obviously you've had success with it, and just tell me a little bit about what works for you.
Yeah, so I've been playing, I guess, 6 years. I didn't even know what PGA golf was. I just stumbled onto it. What was that? 2015 in the summer. I was bored, so I did a lineup at the Open Championship. I was like, hey, that wasn't so bad. And then 2016, I started playing a little bit more, and I didn't really get super serious into it till about 2018. I won a couple GPPs over on FanDuel, and then I was like, oh, wow, I'm actually kind of good at this. And I started, perfecting my process and kind of looked in at what worked and what didn't and why I was winning and stuff like that. And then I've just kind of gotten a little bit better. And every year I think I can't do better than I did last year. And then, every year I just managed to do better. I was at the live World Finals last year for the Fantasy Golf World Championship. And I was like, what am I doing? How am I here? How am I it's just like, I'd say it's a lot like poker, because a lot of people play poker. It's like you can be good at it, but that doesn't mean you're always going to find success at it. And you got to be pretty fortunate. And I feel like I've been running pretty fortunate for the last 4 or 5 years. And I just enjoy it. Even I say this all the time on my show. If I broke even or, even if I lost a little bit, it would still be a huge win, because I just love doing this shit so much.
Yeah, well, we love that. And, you're one of those, I think if you've been playing often, that you see the similar kind of icons or the profile pictures on DraftKings, and yours, I've been seeing a while of the Ron Burgundy, kind of icon. And so then that's one of the great things about Twitter. Then you can kind of connect, and now we can all kind of talk about strategy. And so we'll give you just some time if you want to plug your Showdown Hoedown kind of that your kind of show you do for Showdowns. What got you into that? And tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it was just 6 or 7 weeks ago. Andy Lack, I don't know if you know him. He had me on his show. We just kind of connected last year because I told him I enjoyed all of his nerdy stuff about agronomy, and he had me on his show. And at that time, I was like a nobody. I think I had 150 followers on Twitter, and I was on there. I got a lot of nice messages, feedback saying, "Wow, I learned a lot. You should do some more." And then, I started tossing the idea, Andy, around about how there's no good Showdown content out there. And I'm always trying to talk him into there's such a bigger edge at Showdown than there is at week long. There's just not a lot of people pumping great content out for it. And he said, well, do it then. I said, well, okay, I'll do it. And created the show. It's only been, I think, 5 weeks. We've grown at a crazy fast rate, a humbling pace that I could have never imagined. We're trying to get to 1,000 by the Open Championship. So if you go leave your dude a subscribe over on YouTube, I'd like it. It's just Degenerate 75 on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. Every Friday night I do round 3 Showdown. Every Saturday night I do round 4 Showdown. And I would say probably the one that's becoming the most popular is the Wednesday night live stream at 7:00. I talk about a little bit about round 1 Showdown, but more than anything, I talk about the ownership. I'm really good at ownership. I'm really good at pivots, who's going to be the chalk, weather, and just overall, just do a Q&A for what people want to know. So as I always tell them, don't make your lineups until you come watch my stream. So that's what I would say.
And I'll say one thing, typically, or at least in my opinion, DraftKings kind of has some poor round 1 Showdown contests as it relates to usually 3 and 4 are the better ones, and 2 can be nice. But this week I saw that they have some nice contests for round 1. Yeah, so check out James's show Wednesday evening. But Drew, I know you're really excited to have James on because you're a big Showdown guy, and so you've been kind of chomping at the bit to pick James's brain Showdown wise. Is that right?
Yeah, for sure. And to James' point early on, it's like great on you realizing that there was kind of a hole in the system when not everybody was kind of focusing on Showdown. So if, like, for you, let me ask you this. What advantages do you see doing Showdown as compared to just normal GPPs? And then do you have a favorite day that you like to do Showdown? Of course, we talk about Sunday with finishing points and whatnot. Is there a specific day that you like the most? And just kind of what's that process even look like?
Yeah, so I mean, what day I like the most is definitely Sunday, and that's just kind of by default because they have the biggest prize pools. You have the biggest edge because you can project the ownership so much cleaner because people are going to be chasing those points. But like, I don't mind a good round 1 or round 2 showdown if I see a good edge. If I see like a big wind advantage coming in or something like that, which maybe I might see for week 1 this week, or for round 1 this week. I'm all about that. What was the first part of the question? I answered the second part, and I forgot what the first part was. I don't even remember. I'm sorry.
Well, this is like Phil Mickelson in his press conference.
Yeah.
We only like one question.
Right. Once you get to my age, you can't 2 questions. It just gets a little overwhelming.
No, what's the no, trust me, I get it, man. What advantage do you see in Showdown as compared to like normal GPP? And because like to your point, what I love about Showdown is like the gratification at the end of the day, right? I don't have to stress this thing out for 4 days. If I shit the bed and I lose all my money, it's gone, right?
Yeah.
Or you can celebrate at the end of the night. So, what kind of advantage, or maybe it's a disadvantage, do you like with Showdown as compared to just your normal 4-round GPPs?
Yeah, you're right about Showdown. Like a lot of times by 11 o'clock, you'd be like, well, I'm dead today. Because Justin Rose is 11 under through 14. I don't have him. So I guess we'll go ahead and shut it down for Showdown today. But the biggest edge, and it's the simplest thing ever. It's just ownership. Ownership concentrates so much more on Showdown than it does at week long, because at week long, there's so many people there's so much good content out there, and the talking heads have gotten so much wiser to how ownership is more important than your actual little projection models and your nerdy stuff like that, that people are learning how to pivot. People are learning to play good guys that are going to be lower owned. And when you do that, the ownership gets a lot more, it's just not as dramatic at week long as it is at Showdown. And Showdown, no one's really saying that. So you end up getting 55% Billy Ho heading into Sunday Showdown round 4. And that's just ridiculous. You should never play it. I wouldn't play God himself if he were 55%.
Well, one thing I kind of wonder is that people they have a good process doing week long. They go into Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, develop their pool, however many lineups they're playing. And then it seems like round 2, 3, and 4, everybody just abandons their strategy and then just goes in blindly for how people played the round before, just totally forgetting the variance of golf and totally not even thinking of ownership or how my lineup might be duped or unique. And it is totally abandoned, and they're just diving into who had the best ball striking stats the day before. And it just seems to like go out the window. And you think that's the case?
I mean, that's my favorite thing about Showdown is all the people that think they know what they're doing are like, I'll go look at ball striking and who's not putting well because I'm clever. It's like, dude, that's like the most like basic noob approach to Showdown of all time.
Yeah.
Go look a little bit better and look at guys like, I was preaching this last week. I was like, go play Brendan Steele, go play Jordan Spieth, go play all these guys that shit the round in round 2, and they're going to come out and smash round 3 tomorrow because like they're professional golfers. And like, 1 or 2 bad bounces can be the difference between a 67 and a 74 in a round. And, you just get, and whenever somebody's coming off a bad round, you're going to get them at such an ownership discount. You're just playing the ownership game. You're going to get great players that are lower owned because they're coming off of 1 round. And just completely correlated to that is people who are coming off of great rounds are always going to be way higher owned, which is ridiculous because it is so hard to go shoot a 64 2 days in a row. And unless you're freaking JT, he seems to be able to do it.
And I've heard you say something similar on your show, is that we kind of know that putting has high variance. And so people say, oh gosh, well, we haven't putted well, but maybe he was first in ball striking the day before, so I got to play him. But also understanding that all stats have variance. Yeah, putting has more. And so I remember playing Showdown last week and then at the Memorial, where you had to be in the fairway to get yourself in scoring position. The rough is just kind of brutal. So lean more on who might be more consistent off the tee, looking not just at in-tournament stats, but then kind of maybe say the last 24 rounds. and then not being too concerned unless they were, gosh, in the hundreds in ball striking. Because I feel like if someone has a number one for the previous round or previous 2 rounds for ball striking, often that can be their peak, and you can only go down from there. And so then if everybody is going to be 40% owned on this cat, then why do it? And so it's just an easy fade. But
over 18 holes, there's a lot of variance in that. Yeah, like somebody who's a great ball striker over 72 holes is probably going to perform closer to what you would expect than over an 18-hole period. So I don't care how great their ball striking. If they're going to be 40% owned, they're a hard fade. And when you do that, it gets so easy to start boxing out large chunks of fields, just all of them based on playing one guy or 2 guys. It's awesome.
That's why ownership matters. Yeah, sorry, Drew, go ahead.
No, you're good. You're good. So like what I find myself doing sometimes in Showdown as well is we've talked about the importance of ownership, right? That kind of gives us the most leverage right out of the gate. But I also can kind of pinpoint guys that I feel like have super high upside, right? I don't feel like there's a ton of guys on this tour that have the super low one in them. And that's kind of what you need sometimes. Is that something you look at as well? Like say, hey, I'm within, these 2 or 3 guys. And it's like, what's the upside, right? Like what can this guy, if he goes out and plays his best, what can I expect out of him compared to the other 2 guys that play their best? Is that something that you look at as well?
Definitely. I think I talked about it Sunday. I was like, I always call it going nuclear hot. I was like, not everybody can go nuclear hot. And I was like, because I think what was it? It was like Danny Lee and Patrick Rogers were both like T19 or something, right? And they're roughly the same price. And I'm like, one of these guys can go nuclear hot. One of these guys can never go nuclear hot. So if you're just playing the upside, yeah, you do need to factor that in, because I've watched enough golf tournaments to see these guys that just randomly pop off 61s. And you do need to factor that in, because Showdown, you just want super high upside. You want that guy that's going to go get you 9 birdies. It can offset so much. And that's why people overrating Sunday Showdown placement points is so ridiculous, because the difference between like second place and like 40th place is literally like a birdie and a half, if that. So it's nothing. And I want the guys that can go nuclear hot, especially if they're down there at T41. I'm going to get them at 3.5% ownership.
Yeah, they're out there just making birdies. It doesn't matter when you're that far back.
One birdie streak, everything's gone. All those make-believe points are gone.
Yeah, exactly. And there could be an argument to make to make lineups more riskier. So takes high ceilings, low floor kind of guys. And yeah, sure, you're going to have those days where he's two over through 2, and Justin Rose is trying to shoot a 59. But there's a lot of people when they are hand building lineups. Let's say they're only making 3 lineups for an 3-entry max. Their thought and their conceptualization is, how do I get these guys or this lineup through the 6-6 percentage, and how 4 or 6 golfers can go through 4 rounds and play the best. Well, in Showdown, we don't need a golfer to be consistent for 4 rounds just for 1 round. And so the argument is that, let's be a little bit more riskier, because people don't know what they're doing and they think they're unique, and they're picking 6 guys in a Showdown lineup, which they think, oh gosh, these 6 golfers are consistent. But to your all's point, gosh, we need the high ceiling guys that are going to be low owned. And it's not going to work out every round, but
we call it the Thomas Peters. I want a 65 or an 85 in Showdown.
Yeah.
And he's going to get you one of those 2 almost every round.
He's going to get you both of them over 4 rounds.
Exactly right.
Well, then move into the regular contest, the week-long, Thursday through Sunday, and combining this with U.S. Open week right now. What are you thinking just about your strategy or your method, the Sunday before the 3rd major?
Which, by the way, this is definitely my favorite major. I just live for the U.S. Open. I don't know. I think it's just the chaos. I love how tough it plays. Honestly, I guess if it's really, I just love that the chalk eats it so bad at the U.S. Open every year. Oh, I love it. Mm-hmm. And so, first of all, I guess I'm just like super excited, but my strategy is this week a little bit different. Normally I play, somewhere between 150 to 300 lineups across a lot of the big tournament, or, the mass entry tournaments. But this week I'm thinking about just doing like a smaller number of lineups, maybe about 15 lineups, putting them in a bunch of the single entries. And like, I'm going to go kind of like high level, DFS strategy on you here, but like I got some pivots this week I really like some guys that are just kind of one-offs. Maybe Xander's going to be popular. I may like a guy right next to him just as much, and I'm very happy pivoting to him. But if I go make that pivot and I do it in the Millie Maker, where there's 150,000 lineups, even if that does end up being a great pivot, it's still the chances of it really paying off in the long run are pretty minuscule. So this week I kind of want to play in those single entry, the big 3 maxes, and there's DraftKings, give them credit. They put out some really good $200 single entries, 333s, 555s. I mean, there's some really good contests that are single entry and 3 maxes this week. And if I do pivot off of Xander and switch to that other guy and it hits off, and now I'm only playing 300 or 400 guys on that GPP, I mean, now you're talking about really paying off with those pivots. And, if the chalk eats it and my pivot hits, it's going to definitely pay off. Whereas if I'm doing the $100 milli maker, the $15 milli maker, even if those great pivots work, you're still going to have the stone cold fucking nuts. And let's face it, you're just not going to have it most of the time, or hardly ever.
Yeah. And you brought up a great point that I wanted to bring up, is that, the milli maker has the sex appeal. But in the $100 one, and maybe the others, the difference between first and second is 900,000, and so that steep drop off. It's just hard to rationalize it. So yeah, you're right. I think there's 4 single entry contests that pay $20K or above that are the $200 single entry. That $200 weekly single entry is one of the best tournaments out there, and we get kind of 4 versions of it this week, and there's a couple $100 single entries too. So I'm glad you kind of brought that up. I'm wondering for both you all, Drew and James, that again with the talking heads, and we are even guilty of it ourselves, but we kind of say, gosh, here's the stats you need for your model, and it spits out a rank, and you're like, here's how we create the player pool. For me, I'm throwing that out the window for the Open, because of you're going to get funny bounces. You're going to get unlucky breaks. You're going to, hit a great shot that's not going to get rewarded. And so that, I'm valuing less what a model says and more maybe into smaller particular statistics. Well, what do you all think? And James, we'll start with you.
I mean, I couldn't agree more. I feel like this week I want like, forget what my stat model says. I want guys that are kind of like tough and can when they catch that bad break, that don't just like melt down. That's, like I always compare Colin Morikawa to like the most beautiful flower in a field, and he's always the prettiest one, but as soon as like a little weather comes in or something, like a little rain, he just wilts and just can't handle it. And that's wow. what I think of him this week. And that's just why I can't play Colin Morikawa, is because I think that the one bad bounce he gets or something doesn't go his way, he's going to start pouting, and he's just not going to be able to grind it. Give me a grinder, give me somebody gritty. That's why I love Scotty Scheffler, Cam Smith, guys like that. They're gritty and they just keep fighting, and they just got a little bulldog in them.
A couple Gruden grinders.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Drew, what about you?
I think it's tough this week too. I mean, you can guess what the right strokes gain data is to throw in a model, but they haven't played here since 88 was the last time that the Open was here. Renovation in 2009. So I feel like everybody wants to talk themselves into, hey, this golf course, we see thick rough on Twitter, right? We see thick rough. So driving accuracy is super important. But to James's point, I mean, saving face, making 8-foot par putts is what kind of matters in the U.S. Open. And I think that, it definitely tests your entire game, but it's hard to bake in strokes gain data when really everybody's kind of throwing in a guessing game of what we're going to see this week. You catch a bad lie, you catch a bad bounce, right? It's to me, it's avoiding bogey at most cost and trying to not get the other score, right? Doubles and triples are going to put you out of the U.S. Open, and there's trouble lurking all over this place. So from a week-to-week standpoint, the process is definitely a little different, to your point, Rob. And a lot of that is because this golf course hasn't been seen in quite some time, and I feel like what everybody's pushing towards their agenda this week and what they think, it's just they don't actually know, and it's always unfolds different than we expect.
Yeah, we'll see a fire start burning of groupthink on what we know for certain the course to play, and it's going to be probably different. Maybe not across the board, but we've just seen it at so many U.S. Opens. And look at Matthew Wolff and Bryson DeChambeau, where they knew for certain you couldn't bomb and gouge, and that's what they did and led them to success. But I'm going to bring it back to Showdown a little bit. James, I prefer Showdown when it's difficult conditions. I don't like Birdie Fest for Showdowns, even though I play it, because it's really the difference sometimes between who's making the 15-footers and who's not. But when you have a difficult test like the U.S. Open, like Memorial, I think it helps the better Showdown player maybe. And we will get one of those rounds from somebody who maybe if the average scoring is 2 over par, we'll get someone who shoots 4 under. But do you feel like it's easier or more difficult at a tough test like this, showdown wise?
Well, I think this is about the easiest answer ever. Just 2 years ago at the U.S. Open, I won the Sunday Showdown round 4 for like $50K. So obviously, I'm a little biased to be like, yes, give me them tough rounds. So yeah, I love it because you're right. Like when I was, I went to the gym Sunday morning. I try not to watch golf Sunday morning because I've just been doing it so long for 4 straight days. I go to the gym. I try not to check my phone for so long, and then I finally check it, and I see Justin Rose. I was like 27 birdies in 10 holes, and I'm like, how is this even real? That's like, this isn't fun. This is like, I was kind of,
he didn't shoot 59 is it's not right.
Yeah, I was actually really impressed with the course. I thought it was holding up pretty well, and giving them a lot of bogeys and stuff. And then it was like the course just like died on Sunday, and it just became like a pitch and putt, and it wasn't fun. I didn't enjoy it. So yes, I definitely in Showdown enjoy the hard rounds, and I love the factoring in the implosion where literally guys in your Showdown lineup can get you negative points. Like that's fun. Yeah. That's fun. That is fun. So I'm with you on that one for sure.
I'm really interested. You kind of teased us with the pivots that you kind of have that you're really excited about. So before we get to that, Drew or James, do you all either have anything that you're kind of really leaning on for the U.S. Open? Where you're being mindful of? You're really, I think it's going to be important, or are we ready to go and just dive into the board and talk about a little pivots or little guys we have some leans on this Monday?
What do you got, James?
Just that Rory McIlroy is 100% going to win. There's no chance that he is not the perfect fit. You've got to play him in every lineup. You could never go wrong doing that.
You just said you wouldn't play Jesus Christ at 50% or whatever.
You know what?
Rory gets the tilt.
Rory's one step above that. Okay,
That's fair.
One step above him.
That's fair.
I mean, he's number one in my model. What do you want from me?
Yeah,
right.
Coming off a hell of a week, and that the one thing I'll say, and this has nothing to do with this week, but last week and the way Sunday went down was peak golf, right? Like the names you had at the top of the leaderboard, the birdies that were being made. That was a hell of a show they put on in Canada. And by the way, tip of the cap to the Canadian fans, because that was a loud and wild week. So
it was like the waste management, but with nice people.
Right. Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So no, I don't have much more. I'm happy to take a look at the board here and kind of move forward.
Yeah, well, let's look at the board, and we're not really going to, unless you all want to, but not really going to go through ranges. Just kind of first go through maybe a guy or two, and we'll kind of go, rotate it. But maybe it's a pivot like James, maybe you got, or maybe kind of just an early lean you're liking so far on a Monday. Yeah, James, why don't you kick us off?
I mean, I feel like I'm copping out here, but I can think of like 2 or 3 times in the last 4 years that I've been playing competitively. I was really late to the party on a guy just going on a dominant run and me just not wanting to accept it. Specifically, I remember Brooks Koepka. I'm like, he won't do it again. He won't do it again. He just kept always freaking winning every freaking major. And I was always being like, he won't do it again. And I feel like we're in the midst of one of those. I feel like Scotty Scheffler is on one of those runs where like you're just being foolish to not play him. I just truly think he's going to win. I just feel like we're on an all-time great run. And I promised myself the next time I saw somebody starting to go on one of those runs, I wasn't going to be a stubborn donkey, and I was just going to jump on and ride him all the way to the end. And that's Scotty Scheffler.
I love that because we've talked on this show, Rob. Do we think that Scotty could go on a Brooks type run? And I 100% do. The guy's game goes anywhere, at any course, in any condition. So I'm with you on Scotty Scheffler. For me, I mean, I could hammer home my Spieth take. The guy that I think I'm going to get some decent ownership on that I really like is Victor Hovland. Game hasn't been great. But to James' point, if you look in that the X, Spieth, Hovland, Burns, Cam Smith area, you could argue that Vic Hovland will have some of the lower ownership of that group. And just the ball striker he is, that's the guy kind of at the top that I would be looking at. But again, you know my lineups and my thought towards Spieth. He'll definitely be in them, but I think Scotty's a great call at the top of the board.
And traditionally, I always think of Hovland as like a guy that will go out there and grind and fight and play those tough courses. He hasn't really been that recently, but traditionally, that's how I've always pictured him in my mind.
Yeah, I agree, and I don't think he's going to be low owned because of the whole narrative, or it's not. it's probably very accurate actually, is that you're going to have to perform well around the green. And Victor has that association that he's a bad around the green player, and it is backed up through strokes gained. He ranks like 116 in the field, but just because you're a bad like around a green player doesn't mean you can't contend or play well. You can make it up for it other ways, and one way you can make it up for it is I'm kind of relating it to this week as proximity to the hole, being able to control your golf ball so well to land it on a particular part of the green where it can hold the green. That's what I'm associating to proximity. Vic ranks 4th in the field over the last 24 rounds. And that brings me to a top-end guy that I really like that I think is going to go really super under-owned, and that's Hideki. He ranks 1st proximity, better around the green. But just because he had a DQ and he's between Cantlay, and he's sandwiched between Cantlay and Lowry, I don't think he's going to go very highly owned at all. And so he's, hopefully one of my big pivots. I do want to get your all's opinion on a few guys that kind of have been playing well that I think could be kind of chalky, and that's Billy Ho, Fitzpatrick, and Justin Rose. Do you all have any thoughts on what you all might do with them?
I'll let you, James.
You want to know the answer?
I have a stronger stance on this than you do. Maybe not.
If I haven't projected to my top 10 most owned this week, I would say I'll probably play one of those guys. I'm just not going to play chalky guys at a tournament that's so volatile, especially when there's so many pivots I like. Like you just talking about Hideki, like he's not going to be highly owned, and I can like pivot right off of Lowry or Zalatoris, who I do think will be owned to him. So there's just such great pivots out there that there's no way I'm going to eat any chalk this week. I just need you to make sure that, get some boots on the ground and make sure Hideki doesn't have any whiteout in his bag this week.
Right. Gosh, that was
that's all I need from you.
Strangest shit I've ever seen. That was some of the strangest things. Yeah, I'll be a full fade of Billy Horschel. And I know he just won. He messed up his finger. I was reading about he couldn't swing a golf club for a week after his win. And then Matt Fitzpatrick's the interesting one to me. There's no win equity there, as we know. This narrative surrounding Matthew Fitzpatrick is the U.S. Open would be the perfect setup for Matthew Fitzpatrick. The putter's been shaky lately. I don't have a lot of interest in Matt Fitzpatrick or Billy Horschel. Again, we know Willie Z is going to be super highly owned right there. But then we get into it, and I don't want to jump on your question here. The DJ Brooks thing, like, are we just going to not like be in on the Brooks Major thing anymore? Is that not a thing now?
Oh gosh, that's something I haven't really wrapped my head around. James, do you have a strong opinion on DJ or Brooks?
I mean, I don't want to let the Brooks at majors thing go, but I got to tell you, it's really been biting me in the ass for like.
Yeah, no, I know. Majors. Yeah, me too.
And like, I feel like it's over. So the problem I run into with Brooks is there's just so many guys in that range that I really like that I think are all going to be very moderately owned that I would just rather play. Like just right there above him. I think Cam Young at that price tag he just can't be that highly owned this week. He can't. I mean, I'm not saying he's not going to be 5%, but he's not going to be 20% like he was at the PGA. So at that price tag, I just feel so much more comfortable with him. He's kind of what I want. I think he's got a little bit of bulldog in him. So I just, and I'm only going to play if I'm only doing 15 lineups. I'm only going to have a player pool of at most 16 guys. So I can't play everybody.
Yep. Right.
Yeah, I like the Cam Young call. And I hope the ownership, him being priced above Brooks and Burns and Finau and Berger, all these guys, I think is going to drive the ownership pretty low. James, do you have another kind of key pivot, kind of maybe below these guys? So high 7, low 7K range?
Okay. So did you say the low 8s or did you say in the 7s? Because
sure. Give me whatever you got. Give me whatever you got.
Okay, so I guess we got to define pivots as just like somebody that's going to be, not very highly owned, right around people that are going to be highly owned. And I feel like Aaron Wise, Mito Pereira, and Fleetwood all seem to be catching a lot of steam. And for me, I can already tell you, this is 100% happening. I will be playing Louis Ice Tyson. He played a little bit better next week. I just, if we're going to do the Brooks is good at majors, Louis is good at majors. I'm going to pivot there. I just feel like that's a good pivot. Never pivot just the pivot for the sake of pivoting. I always love Louis at majors. So if you're telling me I can get him at probably 1/3, maybe even 1/4 of the ownership of those other 3 guys, give me a break. That's an easy one for me.
I love that
Yeah,
call.
and Sung J M right there too, who we know is going to
Yeah.
probably be him and Rory. I would guess would be the two highest owned guys.
Yeah, I love that. Well, Drew, before I get to kind of a few guys I like, do you have in this kind of range? Do you have a guy you like who might be low owned, or if there's a chalky guy you like, why should would we eat the chalk?
I think it's, and I'd love to hear your guys' perspective. I kind of like Abe Ancer this week. I do like Abe Ancer. I think, again, this golf course isn't going to be at 7,200 yards too long for Abe Ancer. He does a lot of the things that you would think check the boxes of what we're looking for this week. In kind of that interesting range, right? And I want to get your guys' thoughts on what that ownership will look like. It may get a little higher than I'm willing to kind of roll with, just because of kind of where he's at. But I could see Gooch, Webb Simpson, and Keegan Bradley kind of garnering some of that ownership. What do you guys think?
Because of where he's at, that's why his ownership will be low. There's no way he'll get above 8%. There's just too many good players sandwiched all around him right there that people want to play. And just to go ahead and make you go ahead and go all in on Ancer, I went and looked at all the courses that have the same putting greens, same type of putting surface that this one has, and he ranks 21st in putting on those. So,
wow.
Abraham Ancer on greens that he's good at, whenever we already know he's a pretty good tee to green guy. I'm in.
Right.
Well, and I want to get your all's opinion. Speaking of Oosthuizen going to another team, Live, hashtag don't blink.
Are we doing that? Are we doing the don't blink hashtags?
We're not doing it. Well, I kind of like Patrick Reed, and tell me I'm crazy or tell me I'm right, James. What are you feeling, if you have any kind of read on Patrick Reed?
Well, first of all, let me look at his ownership, and I can answer that real quick. I don't have a strong opinion one way or the other, but I guess right there next to
ownership got out of control at Memorial. Remember?
Yeah,
that was
wild. Oh man, I was on him the week before when nobody wanted to play him, and he smashed. And then everybody wanted to play him. I was like, well, this is the easiest don't play ever.
Right.
Right.
You know, just good rule of thumb. Just whatever the general public's thinking, just do the opposite. It'll pay off. And it's a plus EV move in the long run. Trust me.
Yep.
I'm warm to Patrick Reed. I actually think this course, it may be not yardage long wise, but it's going to play long, and he is good at tough long courses. And when I think of bulldogs that I like, Patrick Reed's got to be top 5 on the list of just mean bulldogs. It'll go grind for you. He will, and I love that. So, am I saying I'm going to play him? No, but he's certainly in the consideration.
Well, I'm likely going to play him. One thing we love on this show, and if we're skipping over a few other guys that you want to talk about, you guys go ahead. But one piece we love on the show is the sickle range, the kind of 7K or below. Any kind of sickle range plays or any other guys that maybe, again, are getting your attention on a Monday evening. James, you start us.
I mean, full disclosure, I am a Francesco Molinari slut, so you should be aware of that.
Me too.
Hollywood.
So even if he were 9,900, I would have to play him this week. So if you're gonna give me at 6,900, I'm in. He's a major champion. I mean, he's a major champion under 7,000. I gotta play him. It has to be.
Yeah, I love Molinari, and like humble brag, he was like 1% owned. I finished in that 555 round 2 event at Memorial. Finished 3rd in that a few weeks ago, and it was him 1% shot 4 or 5 under, buried 18, which helps. Yeah, I expect a big thing from Molinari, a big summer. For Molinari. I love him. Drew, what about you?
Phil, hammer. 100%.
Are you really playing Phil?
Probably not. No. The problem with Phil is you just never know what's going to show up. Also, this week is the complete polar opposite of what you see out of Kia, where we won last year. It's going to be a tough go around for him. I will play Joel Damon. And I love Joel Damon. Joel Damon's sitting at 6,600. Again, a guy tee to green that's pretty solid, not an overly long player. And I do understand that, and this is why we talk about it a lot. You have to put into perspective yardages on the card, right? So we're at 7,200 yards, which doesn't seem very long. Well, there's also and I'm going to end up bitching about the hole all week. 130-yard par 3, which is an embarrassing yardage for a PGA Tour event. I don't care what it is.
Well, let's see where they put the pins on that hole, because I have a feeling that when they could, I think they might even play it shorter, because they had the roped off from like 115 or something, and I think they might put a pin in a crazy area that if you're not making it to the hole, the ball could come back a little bit. Don't quote me on that, but I'm with you. But I want to see the pins.
Don't you remember the postage stamp at Royal Troon?
Yeah,
was
a
that
little
like 4 or 5
different.
years ago,
And
that one was like double bogey everybody.
Yeah,
everybody. It was birdie or double bogey.
Again, there's 8 par 4s that are going to play over 450. So like that's again, when we look at the card, we see 7,200, and they all play different. But Joel Damon's my guy in the sicko range, and I guess Davis Riley's also intriguing. But he's caught some steam lately, so I think that's going to be a guy that people plumb bob out of that low section when they're trying to kind of stack things up top.
I did just remember I got an email from DraftKings today, which reminds me of the ultimate sicko pick. His name's Chris Gotterup, who might have burned a person or two last week.
Everybody last week.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's back in at 6,600, and I'm telling you, because he was such mega chalk that I wanted to make fun of everybody, that I was watching his every shot. That dude threw some darts. I've never seen somebody miss so many 5 and 6 foot birdies in my life. And plus, I just love a good bounce back story. And anytime a guy you play him and he screws you over, the next week he's going to be 3% owned. He's going to smash, because that's just how the fantasy golf lords go.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I just have 2, and I'm not in love with any of them. But if you're making a stars of scrubs and you don't like Molinari, I kind of like Lucas Herbert. He's been playing well, but largely due to the putter. But I kind of like a big hitter that performs well around the green. And again, he played well at the PGA, largely thanks to his putter. He gained over 8 strokes on the green. But then the boy you just mentioned earlier, I kind of like Danny Lee. I don't know his U.S. Open history. I kind of like how he's playing lately, and a guy that seems to be a bulldog that's a little bit of a dick. That's what I want it to be at the U.S. Open, and that's Danny Lee.
I love it.
He's made the cut 1 out of 2 times. There's his history.
There you go.
It went miscut and then 57. So that just means he's trending. That's all that means.
It's actually wild to look at Danny Lee's. Like, Danny Lee's been around since he played the Masters in 2009.
Yeah. Don't you remember when him and Fowler were best friends and they would always do stories on that?
Yeah. But you can see how his career has just been a roller coaster, to where essentially he was on tour. He had to go back to the Corn Ferry Tour, web.com, whatever it was at that point. Love me a good journeyman, right? Love me a good journeyman come the U.S. Open. But yeah, I'm not. I know it's early in the week, but I don't know how much I want to dip down past 7K. Besides, fill every lineup.
Well, then let me ask you all this, because I think it's very important. It'd be important to know, kind of for Showdown too, I think. But what do we think the winning score is going to be?
Less than -5. Like,
you think so?
It's going to be. I think it'll be brutal out there. Plus, I'm a weather nerd, and I've been tracking it, and it doesn't look like it's going to be ideal scoring conditions at all.
Yeah.
So
I'll say 3 under.
So 3 under. And so, James, for you, being a weather guy, what's it look? I know a lot can change, but what's it look like right now on Monday? I think I saw there might be a little wind Friday or Thursday afternoon, and maybe even Friday morning. But yeah, what's your assessment?
Yeah, and then the scattered thunderstorms on Friday also, and we've already seen that sometimes those thunderstorms can mess up what you think is a wind advantage.
Yeah,
I believe that was the players.
Sawgrass,
so right now, right now tentatively it looks like some winds are going to pick up Thursday afternoon and carry on into Friday morning, which you would think would make it an obvious wind stack, but
it's faded.
It's going to be pretty gusty the whole time. And there are some scattered thunderstorms coming in Friday. So if they get a 3-hour delay, all that could get turned on its head.
And that rain in that rough, right? They get any precipitation. That just makes that stuff so thick and nasty to deal with. It'll be fun to watch.
It will be.
We love some carnage.
Carnage. Give me the carnage.
We love it. Yeah, that's right.
Right. I hope you guys are right that it's low. I think something similar, but every time I think that a course is going to play harder than it is, there's all this excitement builds up. We get reminded how good these guys are. So I might say winning score is 9 under.
Well, here's the one counterpoint I would make to you to that. There's go look at the course. There's not many scoring holes. Like there's just not many. Like there's not like, oh, they got the easy 3 par 5s to go get their birdie on. Like one of the par 5s.
Have you watched the no lane up Brookline thing? You have? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I figured you had.
And you don't have like the generic 290-yard drivable par 4 that everybody gets a birdie on. There's just not a lot of that out there. I see maybe 3 or 4 holes they can score on, and I see about 14 holes they can blow up on
for your life.
Yeah, I love it. I hope you're right. At Carnage, I'm all for it. I'm with you with you guys. Well, before we close and we put this to bed, any other final thoughts that James or Drew you have for the U.S. Open this week?
No, James, I appreciate you coming on. Spieth will win, and I mean, I think we all kind of know that, but no, appreciate you being on, man. I'm very excited about this golf course and this week in particular. The USGA has done a really good job of. If you think of the last two U.S. Opens, this is a completely different yardage wise, setup wise. It's going to be way different. And I think different can be good, right? The USGA has had two good setups the last 2 years. And I've critiqued the hell out of the USGA on how they set things up. But the last 2 years have been really good. It's about 350 yards shorter on average than the other two years. So I think it's, for me being the golf nerd, if they can go in and it can be a tough week with not a whole lot of, not a long golf course, it's a win for the golf community and golf architects everywhere, right? Because it's gotten to a point where everything's being stretched out to 7,500, 7,700, right? And sometimes the courses that are the best are at 7,000 or 7,200. So if they can hone it in and make it difficult this week at a shorter golf course, I think golf fans in general win.
I guess one takeaway I would say is, Friday afternoon when all your lineups are dead and you're thinking, I hate the U.S. Open. Why did I invest money in this stupid thing? Don't forget there's Showdown. You can come up over on the Showdown Hoedown. And even if you never played, what a great week to try, because the prizes are going to be huge and there's going to be a lot of interest in it. So go play some Showdown if all your lineups are wrecked, and you can still have an amazing weekend of golf, even if your best week longs are 4 out of 6. Don't fret, young one. I got you.
Love it.
Yeah, no doubt. And one thing, James, I can't remember if you said it when we were live or before, is you're doing such a great thing. You're not just telling people, hey, play this guy, play that guy. You're helping giving a strategy that can kind of sustain. And we've seen the testimonials on it on Twitter. We've seen the kind of people tweeting how much life-changing money sometimes that you've helped them win. So yeah, it's fun. I'm so excited. Again, even maybe more excited this week to play Showdown at a tough test. And James, I hope you run it back and win another $50K at the U.S. Open this year.
I hope so too. I wouldn't mind it. Wouldn't mind it at all. And and last year I won my ticket to the Fantasy Golf World Championship at the U.S. Open. So I mean, I've been running pure at this one the last couple of years. So
no wonder this is your favorite event.
Yeah, big plans to keep that going.
Love it.
Let's go. You're running hot. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate you. Good luck, everybody, this weekend. Reach out to James, the Degenerate on 75. Check out his shows Wednesday and the rest of the weekend. It's great stuff. See you guys.